Namaste, hello, and a very warm welcome to UPSC for everyone. My name is Abhinav, and in this video, we are going to discuss selected topics from the Hindu and Indian Express for the date 15th September. Now, in this video, we'll be discussing the following topics. Scientists find life harboring gas on Venus. So, scientists have found traces of phosphine gas on Venus. Now, this gas is essentially associated with the decaying of organic matter on planet Earth. So, this is a very exciting find, and scientists are saying that this in fact is more significant than the finding of water on Mars and Moon. So, we'll see what this really means for our search for the ET or the extraterrestrial life. Then, center opposes move to recognize same-sex unions. So there is a petition in the Delhi High Court which seeks to get legal recognition for same-sex unions. So we'll get a brief about the 2018 Supreme Court judgment that was by a 5-judge constitutional bench, which basically said that section 377 of IPC, which criminalized consensual sex between consenting adults of same sex, unconstitutional. So we'll look at that and then we'll see what the center's response is to this appeal. Then for a different yardstick, we'll be discussing about the ease of doing business rankings by the World Bank. Now the World Bank has halted the publication of these rankings because it says that there are irregularities of data coming from different countries. But this takes a different perspective and it brings out some inherent flaws in the ranking system as it stands. It says how it avoids concerns like health, environment, right to information, etc. So we'll have a look at it. Then what's next for Palestine after UAE, Bahrain deals with Israel? So this article basically gives a brief about the peace deals between Israel and other Arabian countries, and now Arabic countries are signing peace deals with Israel. So that is leaving the question of Palestine, for all practical matters, a dead matter. So we'll also see what was the Arab peace deal, and we'll also see how the Palestinians are reacting to all of this. Then feminists paper Paris with stark posters decrying domestic abuse. Then feminists paper Paris with stark posters decrying domestic abuse. So this is a beautiful example of how women are protesting in Paris against the increasing domestic abuse and the inactivity of government towards these increasing cases. And Oracle beats Microsoft in TikTok US bid, according to Reuters. So I will tell you that why TikTok is being forced to sell off its American arm. Otherwise, Mr. Trump had warned that he will be closing all the operations of TikTok in America. And there were different players in the running like Walmart, Microsoft and other companies, but it seems that Oracle has beaten them all. So we'll have a quick look at that as well. So let's get started. Scientists find life harboring gas on Venus. Now, before we get into that, let me tell you something about the planet Venus. It is the second planet from the Sun in our solar system, and Earth is the third planet from the Sun, so that makes Venus our neighbor. And sometimes it's called the Earth's twin. Why? Because it has similar size, mass, and composition to the Earth. That is why it is sometimes called Earth's twin. Now, let's look at the news. The atmosphere of Venus contains traces of phosphine gas. As I told you in the introduction, that the phosphine gas is essentially associated with the decaying of organic matter on the planet Earth. So that means if there is phosphine gas, then there must be some organic matter which was decaying in the first place to produce phosphine. So by that corollary, we can say that if phosphine is found on the planet Venus, that means that planet Venus must have had some organic material. But this gets interesting because the scientists are not really saying that this guarantees life on Venus. So let us explore. So the atmosphere of Venus contains traces of phosphine gas, which on Earth is associated with living organisms, scientists said, in a fresh insight into conditions on our nearest planetary neighbor. I told you it is the second planet from the sun and it is our neighbor. Now, what is phosphine? It is a flammable gas that on Earth occurs from the breakdown of organic matter. So, is there life on Venus? Well, no one is saying that as of now. What the scientists have discovered is the presence of chemical which is known to be produced only through biological process and not through any naturally occurring chemical process. So, as of now, what we know that this phosphine gas is produced only through biological process. So maybe there will be a breakthrough in science that we'll get to know that there are some naturally occurring phenomena through which this gas is produced. There are some other ways in which this chemical might be produced, for example, in the underbelly of volcanoes or meteorite activity, but that would have shown in much lower concentrations. So that means concentration is high, so they have also ruled this out. In any case, scientists have ruled out all those kinds of known possibilities which could be attributed to the presence of that gas. So this is something mysterious. So the only possible explanation for the origin of this phosphine based on our current knowledge could be in the biological processes, the way it is produced on Earth by some microbes. As a matter of fact, the scientists found this data in 2017, yet they took so long to actually verify this data before they came out with a report. Now, why it is significant then? This is the most credible evidence yet for the possibility of life away from Earth. Scientists say it is more significant, for example, than the discovery of water on Moon or Mars, like I told you in the introduction part. But Venus cannot support life, can it? Because the atmosphere of Venus is not very conducive to life. Let us see how. There are several things that we know about Venus that make life as we know it. See, this word as we know it is very important because we are looking for extraterrestrial life, but we have a very narrow definition of life. There could be different life forms beyond our understanding of carbon-based life forms as we know. So again, there are several things that we know about Venus that make life as we know it unsustainable on that planet. The temperature of Venus is too high and its atmosphere is highly acidic. Just two of the things that would make life impossible. See, there's also a concept called Goldilocks zone. So this concept says that a planet has to be at a particular distance from its central star for it to have conditions to support life like appropriate temperature. So in our solar system, Earth is the perfect example of a planet lying in the Goldilocks zone. Phosphine could be a remnant from a time when Venus was much more hospitable planet. So it could be that earlier the conditions on Venus were much different and the phosphine is remnant from that time. Center opposes move to recognize same-sex unions. So there's a petition in the Delhi High Court which is seeking legal recognition to same-sex unions. Now, this issue of LGBTQ rights is very, very important because as per the constitution, they should also get each and every right, the fundamental rights, and they should also have the right to choose who they want to spend the rest of their lives with, and it should have a legal recognition because there are many legalities in a marriage. So they should be able to do that. They should be able to adopt kids. They should be able to pass on their property, and basically it's more of a social power thing because heterosexual people would take that for granted that you have the power to socially accept someone as your spouse. But homosexual people have been struggling with that. So this is their fight in search of equal rights as enshrined in the Constitution of India. And they should also have these rights as basic human rights are given to each and every human being. Now, there used to be a IPC section 377, which basically said that any sexual activity which is against the order of nature is criminal activity. So, in simple terms, it basically criminalized consenting sexual behavior between adults of same sex. So there were cases about that. It all started from 2013, and finally in 2018 there was a judgment by 5-judge bench of Supreme Court, which makes it a constitutional bench, and it said that section 377 of IPC is unconstitutional, and in that way it decriminalized consenting sexual behavior between people of same sex. Now these people are seeking legal recognition of their unions. But the center opposed this petition, saying our legal system, society and values do not recognize marriage between same sex couples. So there needs to be change in this law, or society needs to evolve with changing times. And some countries in West have actually given legal recognition to these things. Now this statement was made by the Solicitor General in the Delhi High Court. The centre opposed before the Delhi High Court a petition seeking recognition of same-sex marriage. Now 2018 judgment. On September 6, 2018, a 5-judge constitution bench led by then Chief Justice unanimously held that criminalization of private consensual sexual conduct between adults of the same sex under section 377 of the IPC is clearly unconstitutional. So see, this is very important, this word unanimously. Had it been a split verdict like 3:2 or 4:1, then it would have still left a place for appeal to a higher bench of the Supreme Court. Now, something about the constitutional benches, that constitutional benches have a minimum strength of 5 and maximum is the sanctioned strength of the Supreme Court. Right now there are 34 judges in the Supreme Court, including the Chief Justice of India. And generally the constitutional benches are odd numbered, so that if there's a split, then there could be a clear decision. Now if a decision is taken by a constitutional bench, you could still appeal against it in the Supreme Court if you have a strong case. If, for example, it's a split verdict, or if an opposing judgment or a contradictory judgment is given by a bench of similar strength. But for now this is sealed, nobody is opposing it, and Supreme Court will not be ready to take that appeal. One more thing, it is up to the discretion of Supreme Court to basically take judgments for review after a bench has given its judgment. Now coming back to it, the Solicitor General representing the centre said that the 2018 judgment of the Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court merely decriminalizes homosexuality or lesbianism, nothing more, nothing less. So in effect he's saying that 2018 judgment is not giving them the legal recognition to get married. What's next for Palestine after UAE, Bahrain deals with Israel? So after the Abrahamic Accords that were signed between UAE, Israel and USA, now Bahrain has also announced that it will be signing a peace deal. And in yesterday's video, I also discussed the whole issue of how Bahrain is ready to sign the deal with Israel with the blessings of Saudi Arabia. Now there are also speculations that countries like Morocco and Sudan would also be signing deals with Israel real time soon. Now in this article, we'll see the brief about the countries from the Arab world who've signed peace deals with Israel. Then we'll see what has been the traditional Arab position on the Palestine question. What was the Arab peace initiative? Now the deals that are being signed, so what it means for Palestine question. How are the Palestinians reacting, and where does this all leave the Palestinians? Now let us first understand why the Arabic countries are signing deals with Israel. The main factor is the looming danger of Iran, or the Iran factor. Now this Sunni Arab world sees Iran as a greater threat than Israel. And these Sunni Arabic countries have had backdoor relations with Israel for many years. Now they are only formalizing these relations in the public domain. Now, why does Israel want recognition from the Arab world? Because Israel is a very small country, first of all, and it is surrounded by all the Arabic countries. So, a recognition and peace deal first ensures that Israel is at peace. Secondly, it also legitimizes the Jewish state of Israel, which has not been recognized by so many Arabic countries. And now that Israel is signing these deals with the Arabic countries on its own terms, then for all practical purposes, one can surely assume that Israel will continue with its annexation plans of the West Bank, and the Palestinian question is as good as dead. So let's see what this article is saying. It took more than 3 decades for the first Arab country to recognize Israel, and that was Egypt. Egypt signed a peace treaty with Israel in 1979, a year after the Camp David summit. Jordan, the second Arab country that established peace with Israel, took 15 more years to do so. There was a gap of 26 years between Jordan's peace treaty and that of UAE with Israel. And then it took less than 30 days for the fourth agreement between Bahrain and Israel that was announced recently by US President Donald Trump. Now, all this is going towards the final thing that there would be a deal between Saudi and Israel. The de facto leader of Sunni Islamic world would be signing the peace deal with Israel, and that is going to be a very big thing. Now, newfound readiness. Why this newfound readiness among the Arab countries to sign deals with Israel? The newfound readiness of Arab countries to have peace with Israel appears to be transforming one of the oldest conflicts in modern West Asia. There are speculations that more Arab countries from Morocco to Sudan and Oman might follow the footsteps of UAE and Bahrain. These deals, which have formalized years of backroom contacts that I've already told you between the Gulf kingdoms and Israel, suggest that the pan-Israel conflict is turning the page. So there is new dimension. This conflict is going to end soon, and at the end of the day, it would be Palestine all alone to fend for itself. In fact, Yasser Arafat had said it long time ago that none of these Arabic countries are going to help us. We need to help ourselves. So I guess he was right. Now the Arab position on Palestine. Till the UAE-Israel deal, the official Arab position on the question of Palestine was rooted in the Arab Peace Initiative proposed by Saudi Arabia in 2002, so the leader of Sunni world, and endorsed by Arab League in the same year. Now, what does the Arab Peace Initiative say? The proposal calls for normalizing relations between the Arab world and Israel in exchange for full Israeli withdrawal from the territories it captured in the 1967 war, including the West Bank, Gaza and Golan Heights. Well, if they wanted that, they shouldn't have attacked Israel in the first place. And this is very, very unrealistic. A just settlement of the Palestinian refugee issue. Now, this needs to be answered, but this is a very complicated thing. You can refer to our Instagram page. There we have posted about this whole background of the Israel-Palestine issue. So you can go and read that. The establishment of an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. Then again, it is going to be a problem because Israel is not going to leave Jerusalem. Now, what do the agreements mean for Palestine? The recent agreements made by Bahrain and UAE break the consensus. The Abraham Accords require Israel only to temporarily halt its formal annexation of the West Bank. So as soon as probably the US elections are over, Israel will resume its annexations. The agreement between Bahrain and Israel dispenses with the pretense altogether, making no mention of the Palestinian land. So the Arab Peace Initiative talked about the Palestinian land. Now the deals that are being signed, they make no mention of the Palestinian land. How are the Palestinians reacting? They have strongly rejected the agreements, understandably so. The Palestinian leadership considers this step to blow the Arab Peace Initiative and the decisions of the Arab and Islamic summits and international legitimacy. Of course, they will lose any form of international legitimacy as soon as the Arab countries abandon Palestine. And they see it as an aggression against the Palestinian people and as neglecting Palestinian rights and sacred things, especially Jerusalem and the independent Palestinian state on the borders of June 4, 1967. Now, see, I have told you before as well that when it comes to geopolitics, it's always the pragmatism which wins over emotions. So geopolitics are run on realism and pragmatism. Now it is more pragmatic for the Arab world to formalize their relations with Israel to combat their common enemy called Iran. And they are also looking to modernize their economies, especially now that oil is losing its relevance and more Arabic countries are also investing in technologies like renewables. And we all know that Israel is a pioneer in technology. So a close relationship with Israel will also help them to transition their economy to the post-oil era. The Palestinians have further called for an immediate emergency session of the Arab League and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to reject this declaration. By normalizing relations outside this framework of land for peace, the two states have broken with a decades-old Arab consensus on the Palestinian issue and effectively endorsed Israel's military occupation over the Palestinians. So in the end, where does it leave the Palestinians? On their own. This leaves the Palestinians more isolated than ever and further weakens the already dim prospect of a two-state solution. And I told you in the last video that why is Saudi Arabia not signing the agreement right away? It is because still the public opinion in the Arab world favors the Palestinian issue. So they'll give it some time. They're basically trying to soften the blow to the people. And one fine day we'll get to know that Saudi Arabia has also signed the peace deal with Israel. For a different yardstick. Now this article tells us about the ease of doing business or doing business survey that is conducted by the World Bank. I told you in the introduction as well that this survey has been halted due to the discrepancy in the data that is submitted to the World Bank by different countries. Now this article gives a different view of the doing business survey and it says that this halt gives us a good chance to revamp the survey to include issues like health and environmental checks within the ambit of this survey, because this survey neglects these important facts. So let us see what the article is saying. So the World Bank has paused the publication of its doing business report because of the statistical irregularities. Now, first of all, what is the ease of doing business? Ease of doing business is an index published by the World Bank. So again, a question for PT, and in UPSC, they've been asking such questions for the past 3-4 years that such and such report is published by such and such organization. So ease of doing business is by World Bank. It is an aggregate figure that includes different parameters which define the ease of doing business in a country. The name in itself is self-explanatory. So it takes different parameters and tells us how easy it is to do business in a country. Now, what does it signify? Economies are ranked on their ease of doing business from 1 to 190. So this is the scale ranking from 1 to 190. A high ease of doing business ranking means the regulatory environment is more conducive to starting and operation of a local firm. And India also is trying for increasing its ease of doing business ranking so that it is an indicator to international players that India is a place where you can easily do business, and that will bring in more foreign investment in terms of FDI, and that is what we really need, because more the foreign investment in terms of FDI, more there will be generation of employment. More employment generation, more revenue to the economy, more economic growth, and that is something that we desperately need right now. Now the rankings are determined by sorting the aggregate scores on 10 topics. So how many topics are covered? 10 topics, and each topic has several indicators giving equal weights to each topic. So the ranking is done on a scale which comprises of 10 topics, and all the topics have equal weightage, and based on the aggregate score that one gets on these 10 topics, you get your ranking. But rash deregulation prompts a race to the bottom that the world can ill afford during a climate and health crisis. Now, what he's actually saying that in the name of ease of doing business, countries, what they do, they basically ease their labor laws, environmental laws, and other laws to help foreign countries come and conduct business in their own countries, and that basically dilutes their own laws, and it is detrimental for the host country in the long run. The World Bank's Independent Evaluation Group 2008 and an external independent panel 2013 together flagged 15 shortcomings in the index, many of which are still relevant. So how many shortcomings there are? As per this article, 15 shortcomings. Among the weaknesses are the lack of transparency and objectivity in scoring. So we really don't know how they actually come up with the scores and what parameter do they follow to give the scores. For example, questions have been raised on Russia's leap in ranking from 120 out of 190 countries in 2012 to 62 in 2015. So see, such a big leap, almost a leap of 60, right? And that too within a period of 3 years. The survey excludes the informal sector. Now, informal sector, especially for a country like India, where as per different estimates, 85% to 90% of economic activity takes place in the informal sector. So neglecting that sector really does not tell the whole picture of the ease of doing business in any country. Curiously, low scores for China and India were associated with high growth in FDI. So it said that because India and China got high growth in FDI, that means they had better ease of doing business, and that is why they got low scores. The biggest drawback is that the index sidesteps societal costs of deregulating population, worker safety, and health risks. Like I told you, that to ensure ease of doing business, countries basically dilute laws such as pollution, labor laws, health laws, and that really puts a burden on the host country in the long run. India and China improved their scores sharply in 2019 and 20, though the world's first and third largest emitters increased carbon effluents significantly. So it is a short-term growth. In the long term, it is going to hurt not only just India and China, but also the entire world. Another 2020 index ranked China 120 and India 168 out of 180 countries on the environment. So we talk so much about sustainable development. So if we neglect environment, then our development is going to be very short-lived. Slack business safeguards produce tragic results, and we've seen, for example, in India, what happened in the Bhopal case, the culprits got away, and many other cases throughout the world. In the name of ease of doing business, accidents happen, and those who are responsible, they never get caught. Brazil, India, and US have slashed environmental standards, especially the newly introduced EIA draft, which is in public domain. It has been criticized on so many grounds. In Brazil, President Bolsonaro, he has been held responsible for burning of the Amazon and also the Pantanal wetland. And in US, everybody knows what the stand of Mr. Trump is. He actually calls global warming and climate change a hoax. Now, several indicators of the Doing Business survey presume that less regulation is better, but ignore the impact on health, ecology, worker protection, and right to information. These are very important parameters. So these are the shortcomings in the survey that this article tries to highlight. Oracle beats Microsoft in TikTok US bid according to Reuters. So TikTok is a very controversial app, not just in India, but throughout the world. And in India, it has a certain cringe value. Now coming to the Western world, TikTok again is infamous for its data security. And as per the US administration, the app in this data is used to spy on people or can be potentially used to spy on people. Basically, they are servers of Tencent and Alibaba, and they are located in China. Now there's a 2017 Chinese national security law which says that any Chinese company is legally bound to share any data that the Chinese state asks for in the name of national security. So all your data that you put on TikTok is out there for the Chinese, and especially with the latest revelations of the hybrid war, that the data you store on your Chinese phones and the Chinese apps, they are all going to the Chinese government, the communist state of China. So I told you in the video for the 13th that how using your data from across domains, from different social media domains to your WhatsApp chats to whatever they can get, they are basically building your profile. And that profile contains everything about you, your preferences, your political choices, what you like to buy, where you want to roam around, what you want to eat, how much money are you likely to spend on a particular product. They have your whole profile, and they are snooping not just on you and me, but also on the Prime Minister of India, the President of India, the leader of opposition. Every person worth their salt in our country is under the Chinese radar. So as a part of this Chinese policy of hybrid warfare, potentially TikTok's data is also being used for snooping activities. One more thing is that the data security is very much compromised even within the US. For example, people make videos on TikTok. So even little kids started making videos on TikTok, and there were cases when sexual predators, they got details of the accounts of TikTok holders and the kids basically who were making videos there, and they even contacted them. So there was a big hue and cry about it in the US as well as in the UK. So Mr. Trump told TikTok, either you sell your US arm to a US company or you will have to shut shop. So TikTok has come up with a deal with Oracle. Besides Microsoft and Oracle, Walmart was also in the running, and there were other giants as well who were looking to grasp this opportunity. Now let us see what the article says. Oracle beat Microsoft in the battle for the US arm of TikTok, with a deal structured as a partnership rather than an outright sale to try to navigate geopolitical tension between Beijing and Washington. Now the question remains whether the server will be in America or it will be in China. ByteDance, TikTok's Chinese owner, had been in talks to divest the US business of its popular short video app after US President Donald Trump ordered the sale last month. While TikTok is best known for dancing videos, US officials are concerned user information could be passed to China's Communist Party government. And now there's no ambiguity because of the revelations that we are getting to know. So for sure, all your data on Chinese devices and apps is already compromised. So please stop using Chinese apps and Chinese devices. I know there are not many alternatives, and in the short term, it would be also heavy on your pocket, but just try to look at the larger picture, because it is not just about your own personal data security, but also it could be a matter of national security. Feminists paper Paris with stark posters decrying domestic abuse. So this is a very good case of how women are fighting back domestic abuse, sexual violence, and even femicide in France. Now these are the problems that are not unique to any country or region in particular. There are many people who readily denounce our country, saying that India is a den of violence against women. There are infanticides, female infanticides, femicides, and whatnot. Yes, that is true. Violence against women unfortunately happens in our country too, but this is a universal problem. It is not just limited to one country or a particular socio-economic class. This problem is universal. So let us see what these brilliant women in France are doing. The widespread but illegal campaign has become an effective and ubiquitous tool to raise awareness. For about a year, posters denouncing sexual abuse and femicides, killing women because of their gender. See, these are hate crimes. These are a sign of misogyny, which is prevalent in so many societies. Have popped up by hundreds in Paris, despite the fact that posting on public walls is considered vandalism and is illegal. The posters are the work of feminist activists who, critical of the French government's response to growing problem of domestic violence. So this is not a problem of developing versus developed, rich versus poor, particular religion, caste, region. It is a universal problem. Have taken to the streets with large-scale poster campaign aimed at raising awareness of violent crimes carried out against women by their current or former partners. The messages have also become an unlikely battleground over who owns the streets. Because see, some people are also saying that these streets are public property and you should not put your agenda on the street. So different people, different opinions, and in our modern society, all sorts of opinions exist. So this constant clash of ideologies and ideas, we see that every day and everywhere around us. The campaign is the work of a new feminist group, Les Collets or the Gluers, begun by Margaret Stern, who in the summer of 2019 put out a call on social networks. Dozens of women responded. Now 1500 activists have joined the postering operations. So there are different forms of protests. For example, there was a trend recently on Instagram of posting your black and white picture. Now it was a challenge, but unfortunately people participate in challenges, but they don't even really know what those challenges are all about. So that challenge was also related to violence against women, but we saw people posting pictures, challenge accepted, but when you ask them what is the challenge all about, they have no idea. So there's nothing wrong to stand up for what you believe in. There's nothing good or bad about it. Whatever your own opinion, ideology or idea in life is, you should stand by it, but be aware of what you are doing. Do not blindly follow any trends just because it is cool to do so. So this is all about the video, folks. I hope this was helpful. If you like our content, please do subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you don't miss out on any new video that we post. Also, if you like our videos, please press the like button. And please do connect with us on our Instagram channel, UPSC for Everyone. So see you next time. Till then, stay happy, stay safe and have a great day. Namaste and Jai Hind.